It is the Sports Fix here on Flow FM, and let's take a look now at Hume Netball. Some very important matches played last weekend, and joining me on the line is Carla Fletcher to help us go through all of them. How are you, Carla?
I'm well, thanks, Jason. How are you going?
Going well, thank you. And yes, there was some very important matches played over the weekend, none more so than the top of the table clash, and I think that's where we'll start. Osborne taking on the Billabong Crows at Oaklands, and the Tigers got them in the end by 9 goals.
Yeah, they did. The Crows had a little bit of a slow start, which enabled Osborne to get the upper hand in the first quarter, and they had a big lead by 8 goals, which was probably the key to their win on the day. Osborne's defence worked hard all game with intercepts across the court and rebounding in the circle and providing their attack with as many scoring opportunities as possible. But the Crows girls, they fought back and brought the margin back to 4 during the last quarter, but they were not able to keep up that momentum, and a solid Osborne side took the 4 points. And it was really good because I got to watch the last part of the game as it was live streamed, so that was great.
Yes, I think the live stream had good numbers, and rightly so, because these two sides, whenever they battle, always have a good battle.
Yeah, and look, the awards for Osborne went to their coach, Sally Hunter, and Karen Hugo also played a solid game in goal shooter, while the Crows, Brooklyn Maloney had a formidable game at wing defence, taking some crucial intercepts, and Riggy Robb once again played a really consistent role as goal shooter.
Excellent.
So, yeah, it was a great game.
Well done. All right. We move on to a couple of the other games. So Holbrook, they're going really well at the moment. They were too good for Henty as we thought they would be, but 33 goals to the good in the end, 56-23.
Yeah, Holbrook had their first win for the season against Henty. They were down 2 players, and they had one of their young players in Maddie Black step up from the 17s, and she really fitted in well to the team. Holbrook really came out firing in the first quarter, putting some really great pressure on Henty and resulting in a number of turnovers. And defensively, Holbrook played a really great game, lots of voice and reading of the play. And although it was a big win for Holbrook, Henty are, starting to make some gains and putting into practice some of the skills and strategies they're working on at training. Best players for Holbrook was their coach, Amy Gledhill, and Taylor Byrne, and Henty's best players were Mel Wetton, Alex Waldron, and Rachel Turley.
All right. Colcan have just slipped a bit in the last couple of weeks. They took on Gindera, and this was a fair old litmus test for them. They didn't pass it, though. Gindera were just too good, 57-35, and they stay in touch with the top few. Gindera?
Yeah, so look, Gindera had a little bit of a slow start on the weekend, and it was a pretty tight, the score doesn't really reflect, it was a pretty tight game throughout the whole 4 quarters from both teams. But Gindera, I think, just managed to settle and play a little bit more consistent netball, eventually coming away with a pretty solid win, even without one of their key defenders in Ellen Cook. Shana Holland in defence was awarded Best Player on the day for Gindera, and Colcan's best were their mid-court players, Claudia Krogan and Kayla Wright, and also a young defender, Taylor Morey.
Okay. The Randall-Bundry Waller Giants, they travelled to Korea to take on CDHBU. Now, winner of this game was going to tack back on to perhaps the group searching for that 6th spot, and that team is the Giants. They had a big away win here by 11 goals. Yeah,
but Randall-Bundry they also had a slow start to the game, and the power came out really fast and strong, and they had a 4-goal lead at half-time. And it was only up after half-time that Randall-Bundry started to fire up and play well as a team. They were down by 8 goals at one point in the game, and they picked up the pace and won the game quite easily in the second half. So well done to Katie Kelleher. She was a young B-grade player. The coach thinks it was her first run in A-grade, so she stepped into wing defence, and she didn't miss a beat and played strongly, working well with the rest of the team. And look, Randall-Bundry, as you said, it was a great fight, and it was a really important win for them. CDHBU's best players were Chloe Gilchrist and Laura Duncan, while Caitlin Wardius, Caitlin Kotzer and Katie Kelleher also had good games for Randall-Bundry Waller.
Okay. It was a big game at Urana as well, where the Murray Magpies were taking on How Long. Now, How Long, again, looking to stay in touch with that top couple, but the Murray Magpies, a win here could have seen them inside the top six. In the end, they got towed up, more than double their score, How Long, 53-26.
Yeah, and look, Murray Magpies were leading at the end of the first quarter against How Long, and How Long really had to work together as a team and step things up. And they did that over the next three quarters to get the win. As you said, it's a pretty convincing win. Best players for How Long were their goal defence, Abby Lishke, and also Erin Harbright in goal shooter had another great game. The Magpies' best players were Jess Black and Gabby Robertson.
Okay. And the final match of the round, a surprising margin here. Obviously, Lockhart were favoured to beat the Brockbarham Saints, but gee whiz, they stuck at the task, the Saints girls. They only went down by 7 in the end, 51-44. And at three-quarter time, this looked like it could blow out, but the Saints came home with a wet sail.
Yeah, they did. And it was a pretty tight game over the four quarters between both Lockhart and the Saints. Lockhart had a few players out, and Ruby Hyde stepped up from B grade, and she did a really good job playing on the day. Look, Lockhart pulled away to a little bit of a confident lead at one point in the game, but the Saints put some pressure on, showing that you really need to play consistently over four quarters. And I wouldn't underestimate the Saints over the remainder of the season. Lockhart's Olivia Lang, Paige Brown and Jade Maniscalco all played well. And best players for the Saints were Britt Williams, Beck Livermore and Michaela Hawkins.
Yeah, you're exactly right. The Saints find themselves in 11th spot on the ladder, and we'll have a look at that in a minute, but I don't think they'll finish up there. Take it up to a good team like Lockhart, who are well and truly entrenched in the top six. So let's have a look at that ladder now, actually, and it is a logjam at the top. So there's one game and a bit of percentage between top and fifth on the ladder. The Billabong Crows, Osborne and Jindera have all had 6 wins and 1 loss for the year. And then we go to How Long and Lockhart, who are 4th and 5th on the ladder, who've had 5 wins and 2 losses for the year. So, gee whiz, there's not a lot in it between that top 5.
No, and look, every team's just going to have to take every opportunity to come away with 4 points, because they'll all be wanting those to keep their spots there and try and just move the ladder around a little bit in their favour.
The next batch that are fighting it out for 6th spot at the moment, there's a group of 3 here, and you could argue 4, but we'll go with Colcan, who hold that spot at the moment. They've had 4 wins and 3 losses. And now the Murray Magpies are joined by Randall Bundry Waller on 3 wins each. They've got a little bit of a percentage gap between themselves and Colcan to make up. But the season's, it's only not even halfway through yet, so it's pretty easy to make up 9% inside 10 games, I would have thought.
Yeah, look, they'll all be trying for wins over the next few weeks. But, it'll probably just come down to the luck of the draw and who they have to play so that they can try and grab that 6th spot.
And then the bottom 4, who I think there's a couple of teams here that have been disappointing so far. CDHBU, for me, are one that you just think at some point they're going to come good, and they just haven't in the last couple of years. 2 wins, 5 losses, 9th on the ladder. Holbrook, their first win. We've been waiting for this. They were pretty good on the weekend, 1 win. The BB Saints, I think they're the ones that could shoot up a little bit too, only the 1 win. And Henty just going to struggle throughout the year. Hopefully they can crack it for a win later in the season as they improve, but they're bottom of the ladder at the moment and winless. So that's the ladder. It's there's not a lot in it in a couple of brackets. I think you could say we could split this ladder into 3 groups almost.
Yeah, I think so. Those top teams are really, putting some good scoring goals on the board, and, they're really making every opportunity to increase their percentage, because I think that's what it will come down to. Towards the latter end of the season.
Yeah. Well, we've got some absolutely cracking games this weekend with many of those groups of 3 that the 3 groups there that we mentioned engaged in battle. We'll start with Osborne, who, it's the old-fashioned top versus bottom clash. So you'd think this wouldn't be one of the matches of the round. Osborne should win and win well, but for Henty, it's all about learning, putting some scores on the board at this point and just trying to improve week by week, right?
Yes, I think so. And look, unfortunately, I think Osborne will be really out to boost their percentage this weekend and see if they can take that top position. I don't think they'll let any chance go by on the weekend. They'll just keep putting the goals on.
All right, here's the match of the round. This is at Lockhart, and if Lockhart are at full strength, this will be an absolute beauty between themselves and the Billabong Crows. Never a good week to get the Crows. Off a loss is the worst time to get them. They get a bit grumpy after a loss, the Crows, but boy, this should be a ripper.
Yeah, look, the Crows have had their first loss, and they've taken away some positives from the game last weekend, and I'm sure they'll be focusing on some things to work on their games this week and in the next few weeks. It just depends if both teams are at full strength. There's going to be some great battles across the court, especially in the goal circle with Ricky Robb and Lockhart's Olivia Lang and their defenders. But I think Crows are going to be pretty hungry and determined and maybe come out a little bit more fiery, and they might just take the points on Saturday.
That middle grouping of teams fighting it out for sixth spot that we talked about before, you could almost argue the point that this might even be equal billing for match of the round. Randwill-Bundry Wallet Giants and Colcan, these two sides in that group fighting it out for sixth spot at the moment. And the Giants at home at Woolbundry, not without a chance here.
Yeah, no, they're both close neighbours, these two teams. And look, I think Colcan will be really looking forward to bounce back and have a win to keep that sixth spot on the ladder. But Giants have been playing some really nice netball, and Mel McClellan, a key goal shooter for Giants. She's probably the key to their game. And, I'm not sure who's going to win this, but I think Colcan might be just a little bit too hungry to just maintain their spot in the top six.
All right. Now, the Murray Magpies, they were disappointing against Howlong last week, failed the test there. They've got an even sterner challenge this week against Jindera at Jindera. Can they be, they need to be better than they were last week. Can they be?
Yeah, I think the Magpies girls were a bit disappointed with the outcome of the game last week. It seems they started fairly well against Howlong, but they're taking on Jindera, and Jindera are in a pretty good position at the moment. They're playing some solid netball. They're consistently playing their 7 girls and they're running out the game, but I think they might be just a little bit too strong for the Magpies.
All right. Here's another interesting clash. That bottom grouping of 3 that we were talking about in the bottom 4, they're led by CDHBU, and this week they head off to Holbrook to take on the Brookers there, who had their first win over the weekend, a convincing win. This should be an interesting game.
Yeah, I think I haven't seen CDHBU play yet. We haven't come up against them. But, look, I'm sure they'll be wanting to get out there and kind of just get themselves back on the winning list. And Holbrook will be really keen to keep going on their winning list. So I'm not quite sure. I've actually tipped Holbrook on this one because the girls, I think, will be really fired up from last weekend after a good win.
Yeah, they've been around the mark, Holbrook. So, not without a chance there at home. And the last game, again, this will be an interesting game. Brockburham, 11th on the ladder, and we think they're better than that. But how long? They're pretty good at the moment. Just how good are they? I mean, they'll start favourites here at home. The margin, I think, will be of big interest in this game.
Yeah, look, I think Howlong will start favourites, and I think they're just getting better and better each week. They've come up against a couple of top teams, and they know what they have to do if they want to play finals and be successful. Look, I think they will beat BB Saints on the weekend, and the girls have also got their odd socks round on this week. So it'll be interesting to hear how they go and talk about next week how their event was.
All right, odd socks. So interesting. It's a fundraiser with a difference, I would have thought.
Yeah, no, I think it's to support mental health. So it's a great initiative that Howlong do each year. So it'll be great to hear what they've got to say about their weekend's game.
Brilliant cause. All right, well, that's where we will leave it for today. Good stuff, mate. It's always great catching up for a chat. And look, we'll catch up with you again next week.
Yep, that's great. We'll see you then. Hopefully the weather stays dry after we had a pretty warm weekend last weekend. So we're going from, I think, one extreme to the other. So hopefully the girls can adjust to the conditions.
Good on you, mate.
That could happen. Okay, thanks, Jason.